Welcome to That's the Word, wholesome tales for the whole family. I'm Father James Yamauchi. Today's story, a brief hospital visit. The men strode up to the hospital entrance. They carried rifles, revolvers, and ammo. Their city had been torn apart by the war. Now that the tide was turning and the city was right on the war front, it had descended into chaos. Looters and vigilantes roamed the streets. These men were from the resistance, and they were here to make a hospital visit, visiting some of the wounded, some of the enemy wounded. These enemy had invaded their city and killed their people. While the rule of law was not yet in place, these men would enact some justice. They would kill these wounded enemy in their hospital beds. The captain pounded on the door. "Open up!" he barked. The door swung open to reveal an enemy doctor who had clearly just come from surgery. The captain did not care. "We demand, doctor," the captain said, "that you release to us a number of your enemy patients. We will tell you exactly how many. We will shoot them in retaliation for the thousands of innocent hostages who died at the enemy's hands. Where are the patients?" "I have no idea what anyone's nationality is," the doctor dodged. "They're all unconscious when I get them." "Who registers the wounded?" the captain demanded. "The major," the doctor said. "Get him," the captain ordered. The doctor disappeared from the doorway. In a moment, a thin figure in a cassock appeared. It was one of the enemy chaplains. Despite that, the leader's countenance changed completely. "Oh my," he gasped. "Father." He gave his weapon to his nearest companion and embraced the priest, sobbing. The priest gently whispered to the captain, "Look, when you needed help in prison, I did what I could for you. I need help right now. Do what you can for me." The captain nodded. Shaking, he grabbed the nearest piece of paper. Quickly he wrote, "This hospital is under the protection of the resistance. Reprisals are forbidden." He signed his name and posted the paper on the hospital door. The wounded in that hospital were left unharmed. If the man who came to the door had been anyone other than that particular priest, those wounded would have had a much different fate. But the captain knew that priest well. This priest, even though he was in the enemy army, went out of his way to look after the prisoners, illegally sneaking them provisions and carrying messages between them and between their families. For those who were to be executed, he saved as many as he could. for those who he could not save. He accompanied them to the killing grounds and was with them to the end. After this providential meeting with the captain, the priest stayed with the wounded and became a prisoner of war. As a prisoner of war, he became the rector of a seminary behind the barbed wire, which had at its peak over 500 men studying for the priesthood. All of this work he carried out in France, even though he was German. The Wehrmacht chaplain, who went against orders to care for prisoners of the Nazis in Paris during the Second World War. Father Franz Stock. And for this week, that's the word.
This story was suggested by Vicky. Thank you very much, Vicky, for another opportunity to make Father James say foreign words.
And while it's true I'm a quarter German, I did stumble on a word there. I guess my CH isn't good this morning. Although I also stumbled on the word priest for some reason, too, in the recording.
You have no reason to say that word ever.
Yeah. I mean, who would say priest living in the Catholic culture?
Father Stock's lifelong work was in the peace movement. He was involved in this as a youth before the Second World War and after the First World War. He was very into especially French-German relations and trying to promote unity and peace between the cultures. One thing he would do while he was in Paris as a chaplain, because before the war, he was the chaplain to the German mission in Paris for the Germans who lived in Paris. And he would take Germans around on culture tours to teach them about French culture. I'm not sure what culture he's referring to, but it is an admirable goal.
I knew John Pierre was going to talk a little bit about French culture, but I do have to say, I wonder how they would look at the food, because German food is just out of the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, they didn't say anything in the research about him showing them French food.
And it just reminds me of a story of our great-grandmother. When my grandparents lived in South Korea, my great-grandmother was German. She came to South Korea, saw the food that they were eating in South Korea, and thought they just need to be introduced to good German food. So she made this fabulous German dinner, and the South Koreans just weren't sure what to do with it. They were polite, but they just weren't sure what to do. So I can imagine maybe a similar feeling for the Germans over there in France. It sounds like Father Stock is a very exemplary priest, not only for things he did before the war, but during the war, and then as a prisoner of war running a seminary. And whatever happened to the possibility of investigating him for his holiness?
So there was a cause for canonization open for a while. However, last year it was abruptly closed. We reached out to one of the organizations associated with Father Stock that's named after him. And apparently no one knows why the cause was stopped. No concrete grounds were ever given as to why the cause ended. So if anyone from the Dicastery for Saints is listening to this podcast, which I'm sure everyone in that Dicastery is, then please send us an email and let us know if you have any more information, because that would be great.
Hey, if somebody from the Dicastery is listening, I'm sure they have some other great story ideas.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Send those in. And actually, if anyone emails in from the Dicastery for Saints, I think they might regret it because we'll have a laundry list of questions for them.
Now it's trivia time. Ooh. Last story's trivia question was,
what does discalced mean?
The answer is
barefoot.
This story's trivia question is,
what was the name of the German Catholic mission in Paris? That question again, what was the name of the German Catholic mission in Paris?
If you think you know the answer, email us or contact us on social media and let us know.
If you enjoy That's the Word, please share the word. You can see the story extras for this story at thunderrock.org, where you can see photos of Father Stock. Thunderrock.org is also where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter and where you can find our social links and our email if you have any feedback or story ideas.
Thanks for listening, and join us next Wednesday for another wholesome tale for the whole family.